Hey, yeah, apparently we're missing a lot of classes, and some of you suggested we do this thing online, which I think, yeah, might as well give it a shot. Won't hurt, right? Um, and yeah, speaking of which, we're missing another class today, which is fall break, right? So, um, a lot of you have already done some Matlab, but this is for the people who hasn't done it. I'm gonna give a few videos on Matlab. So if you are really an expert in that, you can skip it. But if you haven't done it, I think this would be nice. You can just follow it. I will try to. I mean, like I said, Matlab is like huge. What you want to do is you want to really just learn what's really needed. Okay, I'm gonna try to cover what's really needed for us as civil engineers. We really don't need so many of its fancy functions, but we just want to cover basics. Okay, so right now, as you can see, there's Matlab. I like I said before, you should have it on your own computer. CCIT guys, they can install it on your personal computer. I think you can use it as long as you're a student here. So you should have it. As I mentioned, it is just like a big fancy calculator. You can do 2 plus 2. You just need to type it. Then when you enter, the Matlab will actually get the result into ans, which is a default variable. If you don't do anything, it will create a variable to store the results, and that variable is called ans. The bad thing about it is that if you do another thing, then the ans is gonna get overridden. So you can see here, down here, this is called workspace. Workspace is really where Matlab stores the variables. We have the ans there, and then you can see it's value 10, but if you do 9 minus a, then it's gonna be rewrite as 1 here. How about like you said, you know what? I don't want it to be override. Like I'm typing in a long formula. I want to do something. You want to store something, okay? You want to store it. So you have to give it a name. For example, your name is ABA. It can be any name. The only rule is that it cannot start with numbers, because your variable numbers start with numbers. Matlab gonna get confused. Okay, so that one equals to, let's say, 7 minus 8, which is -1. Then you enter it. Wow. Okay. Well, now you can see here we got an ABA that's -1. Another thing you noticed is that Matlab always print this thing back. So basically, you tell it to do this. It said, okay, well, here I did this. One way to, I mean, it's always good so that you know what you're doing. But sometimes when you're later on doing a lot of programming, say you are running a loop that have Matlab do things a million times, you don't want it to, output a million times. The way to actually what we call suppress printout is do something like this. Let's see another variable we call BBB equals to 0 minus 9, which is -9. But instead of just enter it, now you put a semicolon on it, and then you enter it. You find out, at this command window, which is like your main platform, as if nothing happened. But if you look at the workspace, another variable is created. So which means this guy, the semicolon, it suppress your output. But Matlab did everything that you asked it to do, and then create that variable there. From here on, you can actually refer to this result by BBBs. For example, you can do BBB it's times 9, which should be -81, right? Because BBB here is -9. So -9 times 9, -81. And because you didn't put it into another variable, Matlab by default put it into ans, so now you can see ans became negative 81. So this is how you use it as a big calculator, and then if you really want to calculate something, you can do that. And then if you want to store something, make sure you give it a name. Let's try it. I think Matlab, a lot of programming language, they don't differentiate from capital letters and lowercase. Matlab does. Say you have a B, big B, BB, I can say equals to 90. So what happens is that you can see those are actually by Matlab standard, they are different variables. Because if I do BBB equals to 90, you know what happens? It will actually overwrite BBB. Yeah, let's try it. See? Okay, yeah, see? It overwrite it. So which means BBB is a different variable by Matlab standard. In fact, you can have BBB equals to 7. They're all different. Although there's this difference, I highly recommend you don't just do some variables that are different only by capital and or whatever, because that will really get yourself confused. This is mentioned only just so that you know this can happen. Like sometimes you type something, then later on you cannot find it in workspace or you cannot call it out. Check your capital letter stuff. Okay. Another very good scale here is CLC. We cover that. It's basically because look at this. Okay, everything printed out is out there. You can take a look, but sometimes this is not too bad because we're just doing basic math. But it can get pretty overwhelming here. If you want to just have a clean slate, you do CLC. This one, CLC, it cleans the command window. It does not touch any of your variables. If you really want to get rid of all the variables, you can do clear. Or you can do clear a specific variable. Like say I really don't like this 90 little BBB. So you can do clear BBB. You enter that. As you can see, that guy's gone. Okay, and then if you do clear of everything, then it'll empty your entire thing. So Matlab has a lot of windows. I think command windows. That's what you have to have because you need to run stuff. Anything that need to be executed need to go into command window to be executed. And then workspace is a good window, simply because you need to keep track of what's in the workspace so that you can call. Current folder is pretty good. Later on, when you are doing a function or a script, Matlab need to call it from your script, or your function file need to be in your current folder. One last thing I want to say is how to input a variable. So in our work, especially for a class like reliability, we seldom just working with one variable, like say a equals 9. I mean that can happen sometime, but really we don't really use it that much. We typically handle a lot of data. Those data they may come to us in Excel sheet. Say you test a whole bunch of concrete cylinders, their strengths was recorded, someone gave you a report, it's on Excel. Or sometimes they are just a TXT file, they just type it in. I think on the next segment we're going to talk about how to handle those and how to load them into Matlab, and we're going to talk about the Matlab matrices and vectors a little bit. So let me see, how do I